Hello, this is JP Harker doing the first of my reviews on video. I'm used to doing reviews, typing them, but I'm trying something new, so bear with me, I am new to this game. First book I am reviewing is the Bible of fantasy literature these days, Lord of the Rings. And we're going to start with Fellowship of the Ring. I'm going to do 3 different videos. Slow burn is the nice way of describing these books. I appreciate the irony in me saying that, but we're focusing on Tolkien at the moment. He really does love the world he's created. I remember reading once, most writers create a world to contain their stories. He created stories for something to do in his world, and it does show. He likes the minutiae of every sort of stream and river, and everything has a history, and it's wonderful, but it does slow the pace. That's undeniable. I know more than one person who started these books and just stopped, because they just couldn't hold with that. I quite liked it. It takes a bit of getting into, but I liked it. I liked the detail. And once the birthday party is over and we know about the One Ring and we know that there's a mission, you've got the background menace of the Black Riders and you've got Tom Bombadil and things that, if you give them the time to enjoy them, you enjoy. So I liked it, but maybe that's just me. There were good points and bad points overall. Bad points, I did feel that the actual fantasy creatures were overlooked. I mean, Frodo's a hobbit, and hobbits are basically people. Whereas the more mystical people like elves and dwarves, they got sort of sidelined in favour of that, I found. Gimli was just a bit of a throwback to the dwarfy goodness of the Hobbit, and I know elves are supposed to be mysterious, but as members of the Fellowship, men like Aragorn and Boromir, and of course Frodo, they got a lot more page time than any of the others did. So I thought that was a bit of a shame. I'd like to see a bit more of them, a bit more of Saruman and Radagast while we were at it. Another bad thing, I didn't like how slavish Sam is in this. I know I'm a Philistine, I saw the films first, and in the films, Sam is a different social class to Frodo, but they are friends, and you get the feeling that the devotion to them is built on friendship more than anything else. The master-servant relationship is a lot more prominent in the original books, and it's, for a 21st century audience, it does make you a little bit uncomfortable, gotta be said. But good characters nonetheless, but something I wasn't keen on. Third thing I wasn't keen on, there's not much in the way of female characters at all. Now, I'm not saying that you have to have sort of your fighting women in every fantasy book. You don't, and you don't need sort of to have that in there, but you do need to have some kind of motivation other than duty or greed. Any psychologist will tell you that the sex drive is one of, if not the most powerful motivator in the human psyche. We don't have any of that motivating anybody. Everyone's either out for power or out to do good. Nobody's sparing a second thought for a lover. Even so, the vague story we've got of Aragorn and Arwen, that's mostly from the appendices at the end. We've later got things with Eowyn, but again, that's largely sidelined. It would have done better, I think, to have a bit more of that in the text. It would have made everything a bit more believable. But that's just my view. On to good things. Well, it is the Bible of fantasy literature. It's got so much in it that was unique at the time and has only since become what we would call stereotype. So we've got to be careful when we try and judge these books. Because things like, you've got you elves and the dwarves and this MacGuffin of the ring, and you've got good triumphing over evil, and things like that were new. And you have to appreciate the genius of Tolkien for putting it together the way he did, and for putting together the detail that he did for this world that's every bit as complex as our own. So I like that. I like losing myself in a complicated world, and this does just that. You can completely believe that for all the magic and all the strange fantasy creatures, this is real because it's so well thought out. A little touch that I quite liked was, again, Philistine, films first. Aragorn and Boromir. There's a lot more to them in the books than there is in the films. And they're a lot more believable, because Aragorn's a little bit too good to be true a lot of the time. He's a lot more fallible, he's a lot more vulnerable, especially here in Book 1. He doesn't particularly want to be leading these people. He'd rather Gandalf was doing it. He wants to go to Minas Tirith with Boromir and sort out his country and deal with his stuff. all this stuff with magic rings and Sauron. He wants to help, he wants to do the right thing, but mainly he's like, no, Gandalf's the man for that. Let him lead it. I'll just help and do what I can. So I like that, and I like Boromir generally. I think he's a wonderful, flawed character. I mean, I love Edmund in the Narnia books because he's better because he's flawed. I like that about him. For a similar reason is why I like Gandalf. I think Gandalf's a brilliant character because he's both immensely powerful and incredibly vulnerable at the same time. Through this book, and for those of us who read The Hobbit, which most of us probably have, we've seen him facing off against wolves and goblins and balrogs and all of that. We've seen him do incredible things, and he's obviously got an immense amount of knowledge and wisdom and power. But he admits freely himself that he's out of his depth for a lot of this stuff, that he doesn't know what's going on, that he doesn't know what to do next, that he doesn't have all the answers. And that makes him likable. You know, having flaws makes people likable. It's why so many people like me, but there we go. I'm going to finish this off now. Overall, I liked this very much. It does take a long time to get into. It is not a book to take up lightly, but it's worth it if you stick to it, and if you stick to the next two as well, it's very good. And always remember, you could be reading the Silmarillion. Trust me, this is easier. So, that's my review of Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. This is me trying to do video reviews. Let me know what you think, comment, like, subscribe, all that other stuff. Bye for now.